You're watching a production of South Dakota Public Broadcasting.
Welcome to Contours, conversations about issues in agriculture that impact us all. Contours is produced by the South Dakota State University College of Agriculture and Biological Sciences and SDSU Extension. These programs are distributed online through igrow.org.
Hello, this is Contours, an exploration of important topics in agriculture in an open conversation with South Dakota's agricultural leaders and you. I'm Dr. Barry Dunn, President of South Dakota State University and former Dean of the College of Agriculture and Biological Sciences. In this edition of Contours, we're going to take a closer look at precision agriculture. It's a brave new world out there, as the last 10 years have seen a rapid evolution in ag technology and its application in production agriculture here in South Dakota. A growing number of farmers are using some form of technology and remote sensing data for precision crop management. Using the technology and the data it provides, producers can track yields, steer and control equipment, monitor field conditions, and manage inputs at very precise levels across a field. All of this offers the potential to substantially increase productivity and profitability and reduce agriculture's footprint on our environment. Different technologies that are currently popular in precision agriculture are variable rate technology, unmanned aerial vehicles or UAVs, global positioning systems, better known as GPS, various mapping technologies and guidance software. But precision agriculture is not a new concept. It's been evolving for more than 20 years, and the pace of change in its evolution is increasing rapidly. There are a number of benefits farmers can realize through the use of precision agriculture. For example, producers can increase yields and reduce costs. And there are environmental benefits as well, as farmers can optimize the use of inputs and conserve water and soil for sustainable food production. There's a lot to talk about, and we have 4 highly qualified people to help us explore the history, the latest technology, and the future potential of precision agriculture. Shane Swedlund is the Facility and Engineering Manager for Raven Industries Applied Technology Division. Dr. David Wright is the head of the SDSU Plant Science Department. Nick Uilk is an instructor in the Ag and Biosystems Engineering Department at South Dakota State. And Keith Alverson operates a 6th-generation grain farm with his family near Chester, South Dakota. He has a bachelor's degree from agronomy in agronomy from SDSU. Gentlemen, it's always a good idea before talking about where we are and where we're going to see where we've been. That's a good starting point for the discussion about precision agriculture. But the pace of change has certainly accelerated. Keith, I'd turn to you. You've been in the field with your dad and now operating the farm. How has that pace of change in the application, how have you seen it happen at the farm level?
Thanks. Well, really we've seen things go from what would be considered by today's standards pretty primitive type precision technologies, whether it's automatic rate controllers, changing the rate of application of nutrients on the go based on ground speed, to things that we use today like variable application of all of our nutrients, variable rate planting prescriptions where we change the rate of our seed on the go, all using GPS technology based on prescription maps to put things exactly where we need to have them in the field, because as we see variability across our fields and across a state like South Dakota, we see the capabilities and the efficiencies of precision technologies, really paying off, because there are areas within my field that can handle higher or lower populations of seed and need more or less nutrients. And so if I can put those things exactly where they need to be, it helps me be more efficient, more cost effective as a farmer. It also helps the environment, of course, because those things aren't exposed to loss because they're exactly where they need to be, exactly when they need to be. And so we use those type of technologies. We use what they call swath control, where we have, sprayer sections or nozzles shutting off individually, so we minimize overlap. We have GPS technology on our irrigation systems, where we can control the speed and change application rates based on speed to help improve water use efficiency. And of course, the thing that really turned the light on in the past was mapping, as far as yield maps. We had done things to the best of our ability at the time, but it was really like, working with your eyes closed. And so to be able to map things and create maps and use those maps has been something that's incredibly helpful to us.
You're well networked across the state. You have friends and you interact with lots of folks. In terms of its application, give the audience an idea of how many maybe as a percentage, how widely adopted are the technologies, and how popular are they?
Well, I think, by today's standards, we see that, yield mapping on combines is something that's a standard feature. It's like having, electric windows in your car. It comes with it now. We're seeing the variable rate planting become ever more prevalent. Some of the variable rate applications on, our sprayers is something that's already built in and comes as a package deal, because they're so efficient and so cost effective that it's something that, all farmers just, they would price it with the package if it wasn't offered on there. And so, but we see farmers adopting those as well as GPS steering real readily. It's some of the other technologies, some of the newer emerging technologies that, have been kind of a steady pace of adoption, but we'll see those as far as some of the variable rate application of nutrients has been one that's really been picking up, and some of that's with the information that we've been able to gather through the rest of the mapping and the information gathering, because when we have GPS technology on the equipment and the monitors in the cabs, we're able to accurately document what goes on within the field, during those applications, and take that back and use that. And so as we gather more information, we can see more potential to use the variable rate technology to do nutrient applications and other practices across the state.
Well, thanks. David, you've had a long experience in agriculture, not only in South Dakota, but certainly across the Midwest. Back up in time a little bit for us and give us a history of what you've seen, and then maybe compare the adoption that Keith was talking about here in South Dakota to some of the other regions of the United States, and how are we doing in terms of adoption?
Precision agriculture really began 30 to 40 years ago in the 1970s with the introduction of non-selective herbicides. And prior to that, in order to eliminate weeds from fields, farmers would have to hire crews of young men, young women that would walk the fields and remove the weeds. It quickly transitioned from that to being able to ride through the fields on tractors and selectively apply herbicides to those individual weeds that would kill it. So when we talk about precision agriculture, it was back then we were reducing the amount of herbicides that was being applied across the field. It was very targeted application, saved money. It was beneficial for the environment. It quickly transitioned over the years to some of the technology that was recently described as primitive, and that is the farmer's ability to control the planters and control not only the amount of seed that's applied, but when the planter was working or not working. That technology alone saved farmers thousands and thousands of dollars a year in reduced seed costs by not overplanting in hedgerows and other areas that were not as productive as they should be. That technology has rapidly grown today, so that we can now plant 2 high corn hybrids in a field. We have electric motors that turn them on and off. The planting rows on and off. We can place hybrids where they will perform best in a field and respond to the microclimate that's in that field. And so that technology is recently introduced by our friends from Raven. That's important to a state like South Dakota because we have such a broad range of environmental growing conditions from east to west. We must have the ability to understand how to best apply our inputs, whether it's seed or chemical, because it varies from across the field and certainly from across the state. So with the technology that we have available to us today, we can control the seeding rate, we can control the herbicide applications, and seeding, whatever variety or hybrid we want to place in the field.
Real quick, and I don't want to overgeneralize this, and maybe you can help us too, Keith, but David, when a normal South Dakota citizen drives by a farmer's field, a quarter section of land, it all looks the same, but how much variability are the soils in that field, either through topography or soil type? And so David, maybe you can do a little of the academic part, and Keith, you can ground truth it for us in your real life experience.
There's a large amount of variability within a given field, and it could be due to soil type, it could be due to previous management practices that the farmer made. There's some academic research going on with the USDA where they're actually looking at the performance of individual corn plants within a field. And within a 10-foot section of row, there's massive variation in the performance of each one of those corn plants. And so it's same genetics, but it's different locations in the field.
So Keith, how about it from when I drive, been by your farm, and every field looks the same, but is it the same?
Well, that's some of it's by design, is because we try and manage those variable areas. On each field that I have, I probably have on average, a half a dozen different soil types. And within that, some of the soil types react a little bit differently. They have different fertility history. We would apply the same rate of fertilizer, but we've pulled off different yields, so we've removed different amounts of nutrients, and so now we create management zones on those, and we really try and normalize what goes on within the fields, and so we can maximize production on both the good areas and the areas that need different amounts of nutrients, have different water holding capacities, things along that line, and so all those things factor in.
Shane, Raven's been a leader in ag technology for many years, a very diverse company that plays an important role in our state in the development of these technologies, but certainly leaders in sprayer technology for a long time. And you have some research data about the overlap of the kind of the way we used to do it, Keith, when I was farming to how it's done now. Talk to us about how impactful that precise technology that you've developed as a team at Raven and how that impacts Keith's profitability.
Sure. Raven, as far as in the agricultural area, really got into that area in the late 70s and coming into the 80s and so on with automatic rate controllers. I mean, that's kind of one of our early backbones, I guess, was on control systems. But as we've grown with agriculture and continue to work down that path, the precision agriculture, as we talk to it, and it can sure mean a lot of different things to different people in different regions. But with the precision agriculture, it seems in the late 90s there were new technologies that were coming into play, and really in the 2000s it seems like things really started to hit to what some of the things that we talk about. And one of the early things had to do with the GPS systems, the global positioning satellite systems, where you knew where you were at in the field based on the GPS. So with that, there was a study that was done. It was a Kansas State study, actually, and it looked at a 3,000 acre operation. And with their sprayers and using just the foam markers before the GPS and guidance systems came into play, in their study, they had about 8% overlap of chemical. So when you think of that, you maybe don't think 8% sounds too bad, but that's 240 acres of the 3,000 that had double the chemical, whether that's a pesticide, herbicide, fertilizer, really a waste of chemical typically. And so with introducing the manual guidance, so a GPS system, but then they had maybe a light bar or something out on the hood where they could manually steer the system, that cut it in half. Got it down to about 4%, so about 120 acres of overlap. Take it in that next level further for assisted steering, whether it be hydraulic or the mechanical drive systems, where you can let go of the wheel and let the machine do the steering for you in the system. Then that cut the waste down to less than 1%. Then you're looking at typically less than 30 acres on that 3,000 acre field. So some of those developments in those areas, and that's just one example. Sure. There are a lot of them, but they are impactful and they do make a difference.
So Keith, as a farmer, when you hear about overlaps going from 8% to less than 1%, what does that mean to your not only your bottom line, but the stewardship of your operation?
Those things are huge. On average, chemical costs as far as a per acre basis are somewhere around $20 to $25 an acre. Our nutrient applications, range from $60 to $130 an acre of investment by us. And so if we're overlapping on an acre, that's real money to us, but it also, as Shane had said, over applies on those areas that we don't need to have. And so that opens us up to over applications, so we could potentially have nutrient or herbicide carryover issues growing the next crop and therefore reducing yields, or we have nutrients that would be over applied and having potential loss into the environment, which really doesn't make sense, because it's money that we as farmers spend to intend to grow a productive crop. But then if it's lost and not utilized by the crop, then no benefit to us, and obviously no benefit to the environment, because it could potentially get into the water supply or things along that line.
I'll shift gears a little bit. Nick, you're an award-winning teacher here at SDSU and really have driven the emerging program of precision ag teaching and what that means to young people here on our campus. So we are the land grant of South Dakota, and we do research and we work with farmers and ranchers like Keith, and we work with industry. But what's it like in the classroom now? What's changed in maybe since Keith went to school, which wasn't really that long ago, to what the young people are experiencing today in the classroom?
It's been fun for me to be a part, because I've been a part from step one. Because as a student, over 10 years ago, I remember being able to take a topics class. So it wasn't an actual class yet, it was an experimental, and it was emerging technologies in agriculture. And that was looking at some of the stuff Shane's been mentioning, that we looked at some of the research studies in there. And I remember a classmate of mine getting an internship working at a John Deere dealership with precision ag equipment. And nobody was real sure what exactly that was, but he got to play with tractors that were driving themselves. It was almost like a game. And we haven't slowed down since that class on developing new curriculum to be taught in the classrooms, and it's been because we're trying to keep up with industry. As new technologies develop in industry, we try and get them into the classroom as quick as we can, and it's been an amazing 10 years seeing all the new developments and all the management practices that farmers have been able to adopt based on this technology, that even if they wanted to 10 years ago, there just wasn't the ability to do it. And now we're able to do that. We've added an precision ag minor on campus, which has been a huge success, lots of interest. And we have students working in every aspect of precision ag, whether that's the equipment side, the agronomy side, coming up with how does Keith apply those nutrients, where do they need to go at the correct rates, the computer science side on developing the maps from the data he's collected with his combine. Shane every year has some interns work with Raven on sensors and developing how can we get new layers of data, or how can we improve the stuff we are collecting. So it's been really exciting to be in the education side of things as we see all this new stuff develop, and hopefully producing students who have a good understanding and can go out and improve upon the technologies that exist and develop new ones. So,
David, we just graduated another class at SDSU. What's the job market for students from agronomy or ag and biosystems engineering? You did senior exit in your interviews. What type of excitement, energy, what type of jobs are out there for young people?
There's a plethora of jobs for well-trained agronomists out there. Every single one of our graduates had a job walking out the door this year. Not necessarily uncommon at SDSU. And they're all going out to ag retail. They're using technology, the precision ag technology. So it's an important aspect of their training. So we've been very lucky that a couple of years ago we started a precision ag minor with our students that provided students with a little additional training and access to that technology, and it's really paying off in being able to place students with important customers.
Keith, used to be that when I was ranching and farming, if an advisor didn't have some gray hair and some experience, no one would listen to him. But I think it's almost the opposite now, isn't it?
It is. You know, the information gathering and data collection and keeping these systems working properly is incredibly critical to us as farmers now. I mean, it used to be that a flat tire or a blown hose would shut us down, and now it's if we don't have satellite correction, or if our rate controller is not working correctly, or if our swath control doesn't work, that'll shut us down. And so to have trained folks that can come out, or to be able to call or contact, we've got technology now where I can connect to have folks that are off-site connect onto my field computer and be able to troubleshoot and diagnose issues, with our slingshot systems from Raven, is incredibly helpful. But the data collection and being able to use that data, so having trained agronomists, the amount of data that's coming in is so beneficial, and be able to try and put that all together and make it useful for farmers is something that's critical going forward. And it's just, it's almost overwhelming the amount of data that we can collect with that accuracy. And so it's really neat to see what's going to come out of that and how we can use that to better increase our efficiency and yields as we grow.
I know we've got some challenges in terms of price right now. Agriculture has always been very cyclical, and it's sadly in one of its downturns right now. But Shane, I know you continue to create new technologies, and they get applied. So maybe just go down the panel and talk about how the ag economy has affected or not affected precision agriculture.
Yeah, it definitely has. With where some of the pricing's at right now and so on, and has had an effect. So it's industry that just makes it ever more important for us to focus on the right things. There are still opportunities out there. There are still things that we can be doing to try and advance the technology, to advance areas that can help farmers be more efficient. And so that's, in these periods, we really step back, really take a very close look, a hard look to make sure we're focused in the right areas through these times. Yeah.
David?
And I think these times are beneficial because you do have time to focus and to think, okay, how can we take this technology and either expand its use to increase profitability for farmers? So these downtimes are important, and they are cyclical, and farmers will begin reinvesting in this technology because it has proven to increase their productivity and increase their profitability over time.
We've had some cases too with the market conditions and so on, where sometimes there's a lot of opportunity for some equipment that people have and keep the equipment a little bit longer, but yet there's upgrades they can make to that equipment as well.
Keith, it's been tough the last couple of years. It was good a couple of years before that, but you're still marching along on the adoption?
Yeah, we really are, because in my mind it's about the efficiency that we can gain out of it. And so as Shane had mentioned, it may change our focus on what we use for technology, because there's some of these technologies that are more of a convenience, they're operator ease of use, and then there's others that, it's real dollars and cents, where if you put this technology on, you can save this much money, you can increase your yield so you can make this much money as far as farming, and you can more effectively put the nutrients where they need to be. And so all of it comes as a kind of a return on investment. And so when I look at new technologies, I really try and focus on which ones give me the highest ROI on my farm, and that's how I identify which ones I want to continue to adopt.
Well, as you can see, there's a lot of potential out there for precision agriculture, so much so that we're going to devote another half-hour contours to the subject. The next episode will focus on the future of precision technology and the ways that big data are affecting decision-making in all aspects of agriculture. If you'd like to learn more, check out the iGrow website, igrow.org, and click on the agronomy section. I'd like to thank our guests today for providing insight, information, and inspiration: Shane Swedlund, Dr. David Wright, Nick Uilk, and Keith Alverson. That's all the time we have for this edition of Contours and our discussion on precision agriculture. We hope you'll join us next time as we continue to explore the vast capabilities and challenge of precision agriculture. I'm Dr. Barry Dunn. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again for the next edition of Contours.
Contours is a conversation about issues in agriculture that impact us all. These programs are produced by the South Dakota State University College of Agriculture and Biological Sciences and SDSU Extension. You can watch these programs on your local South Dakota Public Broadcasting station or by going online to igrow.org.